December 2024. Time names Caitlin Clark Athlete of the Year. One sentence from her ignites the entire sports world. As a white person, there is privilege. She's attacked instantly. But here's the twist. Aja Wilson said the exact same thing months earlier, and the media ignored it. Clark gets dragged. Wilson gets dismissed. And when Wilson finally responds, she doesn't attack Clark. She exposes the media. AJA said it first. May 2024, months before Caitlin Clark ever steps onto a WNBA court, Aja Wilson sits down for an interview with the Associated Press. The reporter asks her what she thinks about the explosion of attention surrounding Clark, the sold-out arenas, the record-breaking viewership, and the non-stop media coverage. Wilson answers honestly, without hesitation. A lot of people want to say it's not about black and white, she says, but to me, it is. She explains what most players already know. Black women have dominated the WNBA since its creation. They have been the stars, the champions, the record setters, yet they have never received the same marketing, visibility, or mainstream attention. We're amazing at what we do, Wilson says, but nobody talks about us like that. She isn't attacking Clark. She isn't angry. She isn't making excuses. She is describing a system that has existed for decades, long before Clark arrived. And how does the media respond? A few headlines, a couple of reposts, then silence. Wilson's truth gets buried because it doesn't spark outrage or drama. The media does not profit from nuance. It profits from tension, from conflict, from turning honest commentary into controversy. And that is exactly what they set out to create. Clark enters the league, and the pressure builds. Caitlin Clark's rookie season is historic. Ratings triple. Arenas sell out. WNBA games become primetime events. She becomes the most talked about women's athlete in the world. But something darker grows with her popularity. Black players start receiving ugly messages. Racist comments flood their inboxes. Death threats hit players like Dejonai Carrington after a routine playoff foul on Clark goes viral. A replay shows their arms get tangled. Carrington's hand catches Clark's eye, and Clark goes down. An accident, clear as day. But the media needs a villain. They push a storyline that Carrington hit her on purpose. A reporter even asks Carrington directly, "Did you mean to hit her in the eye?" Completely manufactured. Clark herself diffuses the controversy instantly. "I don't think it was intentional," she says. "These things happen in basketball." But the media doesn't care. The outrage machine is more valuable than the truth. The WNBA Players Association later criticized the reporter for fueling racially loaded narratives. But by then, the damage is already done. Clark is becoming a superstar. Wilson is still the best player in the league, and the media is quietly shaping the rivalry they want. Wilson reaches a breaking point. Aja Wilson had spent months watching a narrative form around her, a narrative she never agreed to, never fed into, and never wanted. She wasn't the villain in some media-manufactured rivalry. She wasn't jealous of Caitlin Clark. She wasn't threatened. She was simply speaking honestly about realities she had lived with her entire career. But honesty wasn't what the media wanted. They wanted tension. They wanted sides. And in the storyline they were selling, Aja Wilson became the problem. The pressure built slowly. Every time she addressed race or visibility, the nuance disappeared. Headlines rephrased her words to sound inflammatory. Sports panels dissected her tone more than her message. Comment sections filled with strangers calling her bitter, insecure, and ungrateful. And then came the part most people never saw, the part she eventually chose to reveal. "I hate being Aja Wilson some days," she said in an interview, her voice cracking for the first time in public. She didn't hate the game. She hated the weight of being a black superstar in a league that was finally getting mainstream attention, but often for all the wrong reasons. Every time she opened her inbox, she saw messages so racist and so violent that she said she couldn't even read them out loud. This wasn't happening occasionally. It was happening every single day. And each time the media tried to push a narrative that pitted her against Clark, the hate intensified. During one interview, Wilson tried to explain what the pressure looked like behind the scenes. "We can't even play freely," she said, her voice trembling, "because we're worried about what they'll turn it into." For the first time, the public saw the toll, not just on her career, but on her well-being. She wasn't speaking as the WNBA's biggest star. She was speaking as someone simply tired. She then said something that exposed the double standard she had been living under for years. "Despite my resume, people still downgrade what I've done." And she was right. She was a two-time MVP, Finals MVP, Olympic gold medalist, champion, and the best player in the world. Yet, every time she spoke about the realities black women face in the league, the discussion shifted to her supposed jealousy of Clark. The idea that she, a generational talent, somehow felt threatened by a rookie was absurd. But that's the narrative the media preferred because it was easier to sell than the truth. Wilson wasn't criticizing Clark at all. In fact, she consistently praised her talent. Her frustration was with the system, a system that punished black women for speaking truthfully, punished them for being confident, and punished them for succeeding too loudly. It wasn't Clark who made Wilson feel erased. It was the way the media framed their dynamic, twisting every honest comment into conflict, turning every physical play into controversy, and ignoring the racial harassment coming her way. The breaking point wasn't a single moment. It was the accumulation of months of misrepresentation, daily waves of hate, and a constant feeling of walking on thin ice. Wilson was no longer willing to soften her words or carry the burden quietly. She wanted people to understand that she wasn't the antagonist in a rivalry she never asked for. She was a black woman at the top of her sport, watching the media weaponize race to create a storyline that didn't exist, and she was done letting them control the narrative. She wasn't angry at Caitlin Clark. She wasn't competing with her off the court. She wasn't trying to pull the spotlight away. She was trying to have a real conversation about inequality, only to watch the media twist it into entertainment. And at that moment, exhausted, honest, and fed up, A'ja Wilson finally said the quiet part out loud. She wasn't fighting Clark. She was fighting a system determined to profit from tearing them both apart. Clark makes the comment that shatters the internet. In December 2024, Time magazine released its Athlete of the Year interview with Caitlin Clark. She sat down knowing that every sentence she said would be dissected by millions, debated across networks, and twisted into headlines within minutes. When the interviewer asked about the attention she'd received, she didn't dodge the question. She didn't soften her words. She answered honestly, "As a white person, there is privilege." That was the line that detonated across the sports world. She wasn't dismissing her work ethic or her historic achievements. She wasn't apologizing for her talent. She was acknowledging a simple truth. Visibility in American sports has never been race neutral. She continued by saying exactly what black players had been saying for years. A lot of the players who have been really good in this league have been black women. This league was built on them. The more we elevate black women, the better. It should have been a unifying moment. The league's most marketable star publicly validating the women who built the foundation she now stands on. It should have bridged fan bases, lowered tensions, and shifted the conversation toward growth. Instead, the backlash erupted instantly. Conservative commentators accused her of pandering to social pressure. Some fans claimed she was dividing the league. Social media twisted her words into narratives she never intended. And a loud corner of critics said she was betraying her own race by acknowledging privilege at all. The media machine did what it always does. It took an honest truth and spun it into a cultural battlefield. But then came the moment nobody expected. The response that flipped the entire conversation on its head. AJ torches the media's entire narrative. Time magazine interviews A'ja Wilson weeks later for their Women of the Year issue. They ask her what she thinks about Caitlin Clark's comments. They expect tension, they expect criticism, they expect drama. Instead, Wilson gives them none of it. "It's powerful that she said that," Wilson replies. She praises Clark, she supports Clark, she validates everything Clark said, and then she delivers the line that cracks the entire media narrative open. "When my white counterparts speak up, it speaks volumes. They're in rooms where my voice is never supposed to go. That is the truth the media never wanted to face." Wilson has been saying the same thing for years. She has lived it. She has been ignored for it. She has been attacked for it. And now Clark, the league's biggest star, says it too. Both women are telling the same story, from different sides, with different experiences, but with the same message. Yet the media twists it. Wilson's truth gets framed as bitterness. Clark's truth gets framed as betrayal. The point they ignore is that both truths are aligned. Wilson doesn't just defend Clark. She defends the conversation itself. "A lot of people don't want to have that conversation," she says, "especially not in 2025. And just like that, she exposes the real problem. The story was never Clark versus Wilson. It was always Wilson and Clark versus the media narrative built to divide them. The double standard becomes impossible to ignore. Look at what actually happened. A'ja Wilson says race influences visibility in the WNBA, and the media barely reacts. The comment disappears into the news cycle. Months later, Caitlin Clark says the exact same thing, and suddenly the backlash is explosive. One truth is ignored, the other is punished. And both players end up taking heat for being honest, just from opposite directions. Wilson is accused of jealousy. Clark is accused of pandering. Two different criticisms aimed at the same message. The system they're describing ends up proving itself in real time. Wilson talks about black players having to work 10 times harder to be seen. Clark openly says that being white helped her visibility. And what happens next? Wilson's truth gets buried. Clark's truth gets weaponized against her. Both are proven right by the double standard unfolding around them. The media needs conflict. It needs outrage. It needs controversy. What it does not want is unity. And that's why Wilson's response ends up being the biggest twist in the entire story. Instead of taking the bait, instead of feeding the rivalry narrative, she stands with Clark and destroys the media-built storyline with one act of solidarity: the truth they share. Aja Wilson and Caitlin Clark are not enemies. They're not rivals in the way headlines try to portray them. There are two players at the top of their sport dealing with the same pressure from opposite directions. Clark gets praised for her rise, then is attacked the moment she speaks honestly. Wilson gets minimized for her dominance, then criticized for refusing to stay silent. Both of them end up turned into characters in a story neither of them wrote. But the truth is, they both see the real problem clearly. The media is manufacturing a rivalry to get clicks. It needs them on opposite sides. It needs them to be divided. It needs tension that doesn't actually exist. And that's why the narrative cracks the moment Wilson publicly praises Clark. Because unity doesn't sell, honesty doesn't trend, and solidarity doesn't fuel debate shows. But truth does something even more dangerous. It exposes the whole game. Caitlin Clark was right, and Aja Wilson was right. The media just didn't want that truth. Their unity exposed how manufactured the drama really was. If you are tired of fake controversies, drop a comment and subscribe.